Right then, welcome back to this last session of today's, I'll do that again because I was going to say live and we shouldn't say live because we're not, are we? We might be done trading standards. Right. Hello and welcome back to this last session of the Q&A session on the Virtual Flower Show. So we're going to answer a few more questions. We've got a few to squeeze in here. So moving on, this question comes from Elaine Camis. She's got a mature agapanthus in a very large pot with multiple crowns. She's repotted it over the last 4 years, but a number of the leaves are turning yellow. She's careful she doesn't overwater it. As it's large, she doesn't think she can remove it from the pot. So just any tips and advice to try and keep it healthy and growing? Any hands going up?
Feeding it.
Feeding it.
Feeding a high potash feed. And if she can't get it out the pot, if it's a plastic pot or, could she cut it out and replant it into a larger pot?
Yeah.
Or divide it as well.
Yeah, and it's not too late to divide, of course, is it? With agapanthus, you can still do them well into May. So if I've just done some big ones that came from Hoyland years ago, and they'd actually split the pots. So I'd take them out and I used a hatchet to chop them into quarters and then have repotted them, and they're doing fine. So yeah, so get on with that, Elaine. But if you can't get it out of the pot, feed it and take the yellow leaves off. If it's an evergreen one, they do often produce yellow leaves anyway. So just trace them back down into the crown and cut those off. But feed with high potash is what you need to do with that one. Another one from Kay. She would like some suggestions. Her garden is lacking colour at the beginning of the year. She's got beautiful aces all in shade, so she's looking for ideas of flowering plants that she can plant underneath them. Drainage is average, it's sun and shading areas. So any sort of low growing groundy cover plants that's going to give flower and colour early on in the season.
Well,
Vicky.
I think I can answer this one a bit. I'm sure somebody else can add something as well. But obviously, I think heucheras are great with that. We show our heucheras with aces because they grow really well underneath them. We've got some great varieties you could go for. You could go for heuchera lime marmalade, which is a really reliable, strong one, real zingy, limey colour underneath. And then there's if you want smaller ones, there's like heuchera sweet tart. We could go for a heucherella. Catching Fire, which is gorgeous, got really gorgeous markings in the middle, little pinky pink flowers come up on it, and then you could even put Tiarella underneath, which of course are beautiful flowering in the spring, just around the time, just as the ace is starting to sort of put up a bit. But for colour underneath, I would suggest the Heucherella and Tiarella. Great.
And they're going to be there, of course, all year round. Rosie,
hardy.
Any sort of low perennial flowers at this time of the year that you could recommend?
There are quite a lot of really lovely spring ephemerals. So those are like your wood anemones, Anemone nemorosa, for instance. So they come up, they're a varying range of colours, flower really, really well, and then they die back down, which means that they then give room for something else to come up for later flowering. So they're one of your layer planting plants, which is really, really good. So we always call them summer deciduous, and that means that their foliage comes up, they flower, they look really good between March and April into May sometimes, and then they disappear below ground. There are a couple of hardy geraniums that do this as well. So the Geranium maculatums, really, really super, and there are different forms of those, some with chocolate leaves, some with green leaves with markings on them, blues and whites in the flower colour on those. Malviflorum is also another one which has beautiful cut foliage, which looks fantastic as a ground cover. Lovely big bright blue purple flowers at this time of the year, and then again that dies back down, and basically you've then got room for other plants to grow over and take over the space later in the year.
Okay, lovely. Okay, hope that helps, Kay. Right, this is an interesting question. This one comes from Ben. It's all about pests and things in the garden that eat things. He wants to know how to find a balance between pest removal and encouraging beneficial insects and predators in the garden. So, which is an interesting one because we all want to help wildlife and nature and get the beneficial insects into the garden. But there comes a point, doesn't it, when you've got so many pests on the plants, you've got to do something. So, any quick tips from anybody how they deal with them or how you can keep that balance, really?
I think it's down to having a good